Between all the serious full simulation on the market, there is one which exists since 2013, which we often forget. And it's a shame, because it's one of the most accurate simulation out there. That game is RfactoR 2, The Forgotten King. After all these years, the game got several improvements, especially on the graphics, which is the biggest weak point of the game since its release, and now I'm going to review it and explain why is the king of simulation. Ready? As always, the tires model plays a big role on the realism of a racing game, and often it's there we can see if a racing game is a more arcadish or a more simulative. Well, here I can confirm you we touched the summum of realism. It's not just the handling and how the car progressively loses the grip with extreme precision, and thanks to that I think it's one of the best games to learn how to drift, but also how your tires react to the solicitations, like the flat spots due to the wheel lock during the braking, the awesome tire deformation, which has huge impact on the absorption of bumps and curbs around of the track, the way how you can feel and actually see the tires wear. I mean, you can't ask more. It's safe to say this is the racing game with the best tires model you can buy nowadays. Obviously the tire temperature is present, and you must pay attention to it, especially while driving a race car, to keep the optimal temperature to have the greatest grip as possible. During my test I never experienced a tire puncture, but I guess if tire pressure is present on both physical and visual forms, I'm pretty sure it's featured in game. Good animation, especially on open wheel cars where you can see dampers and suspension doing their job. And good feeling on the lateral roll and pitching. So the weight transfer is well simulated on suspensions, but we'll see later on the review there is something which really didn't satisfy me. The shocks are well absorbed, but if you put them too stiff, well, prepare to contest steer a lot. A wrong suspension setting could make your car very unstable and nervous. Very good job! The weather system isn't so spectacular like the one we see on project cars, but it's well implemented, and it isn't static. But the element which is present also in other racing games, which I love the most, is how the track gets dry after the rain, but not because it's scripted, but because the cars actually dry it by passing on it. And it isn't all. If you notice carefully, when the track gets dry, it starts getting rubberized and actually improves the track grip. It's awesome! Wind is simulated, but only in offline mode. Air and track temperature are present, humidity as well, and play an important role on tires temperature and wear, and of course on the engine performances as well. The game features a good force feedback, assuming you find a good configuration for your steering wheel. On slow motion replay you can see how the gravity is well simulated in RfactoR 2. Slipstream is present, obviously, it's a serious simulation after all. And in my opinion it's perfect because it isn't too strong or too weak. What I've noticed is the lack of aerodynamic disturbance while cornering, while driving a high downforce car. It's a common issue in real life, and I've been disappointed there aren't games which simulated that yet.
Outside!
Well, here we start immediately with one of the elements I disliked the most, the weight balance. Firstly, you have the sensation cars are lighter than you think. And this element is even more evident when you try to turn the steering wheel fast. The weight transfer, lateral and longitudinal, have so little effect, and sometimes you have the sensation you aren't driving a 1-ton car, but a RC car of few kilograms. And this is more evident on impacts, where the contact system didn't convince me a lot, because the bouncing and rebounding of the car to the wall wasn't so natural. Engine and brake temperature are present, same for mechanical damages. You can break engine and wheels. But we can't say the same for the visual ones, quite archaic and obsolete in every way. Even Gran Turismo 5 had better visual damages than this, and it was released on console 3 years before the final release of RfactoR 2. A little consolation is the setup system. It doesn't offer more elements than Assetto Corsa or racing, okay, but it's complete and full of options which can have a great impact on your car, like the downforce, which could make your car a lot slower on straight on higher settings on open wheel cars. It's a proof the aerodynamics is on point. Pit stops are embarrassing for today's standards, and even for 2013 standards.
The lap was a 55.77.
The radio engineer is basic and gives you just the most important infos of the race, like the position of your opponents, the fastest laps, etc. On the other side, the number of car features is good. You can manually act on the lights, the speed of widescreen wipers, the speed limiters, brake bias, traction control, DRS and other stuff. The game features also flag and rules like the blue flag, drive-through penalties, and if you don't respect the rules you can even be disqualified. RfactoR 2 doesn't offer an engaging career. Basically the level of immersion depends on how much you like a full simulation, but if you're a casual gamer you won't find an exciting racing game. RfactoR 2 is capable of the best and of the worst element, which has slowed down its popularity during these years. Yeah, it supports modes and features elements like rain, which Assetto Corsa doesn't feature. But on the other side the game is obsolete for several elements which we saw before. So the question is, if you love sim racing, does it worth it to buy RfactoR 2 in 2022? My answer is yes, but at two conditions. if you find it with a cheap price, and if you really put driving physics to the first place to a racing game. We are in front of an old king of simulations. It still offers great features and an awesome driving system, but it's getting old. In my opinion, after 9 years of the market, it's the moment for Studio 397 to gradually stop focusing their efforts on RFactor 2 and spend money and resources on RFactor 3.